But right now, it brings me great pleasure to introduce you to a man who's released many incredible records over the best part of the last 15 years, and last 50 years, and many different hats. You might know him as Jake Slazenger, Kid Spatula, m-Ziq with the funny little symbol, and has released records on labels like Rephlex, Astroworks, and of course his own Planet Mu label. Can we have a nice round of applause and a holler for Mike Paradinas?
Sure.
All's well with you, Mike?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing's sure, judging from your accent, you're quite a long way from home at the moment.
That's right, UK. So I flew in a couple of days ago.
Now,
we're just getting over the jet lag.
Whereabouts exactly in the UK would home be for you?
Worcester, which is just south of Birmingham, Midlands, sort of middle of the country.
How long have you been based in Worcester for now?
About 10 years.
Yes. Nice, good city?
There's not much of a music scene in there, but it's sort of quiet, good place to bring up kids, and the property's a lot cheaper.
Yes. Now, I think probably the best way to, I don't know, to get a good kind of introduction to, what you've been doing for the last few years is to play something, from the label. Obviously, you've been doing a lot of production over the years, but the main thing that's kind of been keeping you busy is Planet Mu. First of all, tell us about Planet Mu.
Well, it was a label I started about 8 years ago because I was signed to Virgin and wanted to release my friend's music, and I'd sort of set up a sort of sub-label with Virgin on a major label, but it wasn't really working out. So I sort of wanted total control myself, so I went to an independent distributor and set the label up, which is a lot of work, but if you can do it, it's well worth it to get total control. So.
I mean, when you say it wasn't working out, I mean, major labels, they're great at doing big albums, but...
Yeah, they want a return, an immediate return on their money, so... If you've got a longer-term sort of outlook, it's better to do it yourself because you know that if you're working with music you love, then you don't care if you lose money so much until you've lost all of it. Was it
hard? Was it a hard process
then you care.
To kind of wrangle, to kind of set yourself up independently of?
Yeah, it was at the time because a lot of distributors were sort of changing at that time. There was one called RTM, which Mark knows about because your label was with them, and they got taken over by another distributor, and I'd just signed a deal with RTM, and then I lost it straight away, so I had to find another deal. So I never put a record out with them. But yes, it took another year of work to try and get a distribution deal, but once that was set up, then it was all pretty easy,
Yeah. So what do we got right here?
Yeah, this is just a test pressing of a record which is coming out in November. We've started releasing sort of grime and dubstep in the last 3 years, really. And this is a loafer remix of Pinch, which I should just stick on, really, and see what happens.
So once again, what the name of the artist on that is?
That is DJ Pinch, but it's a remix by Lofo, who's part of DMZ crew, who are putting on parties in Brixton every couple of months. Sort of Digital Mystics and Lofo are part of that crew. I've been going to their parties and sort of trying to, I mean, it's the only sort of interesting electronic music for me happening in London at the moment. It sort of seems vibrant, really. The parties have got a really good vibe, and that's sort of been missing a lot in the last sort of 8 or 9 years, really, since the rave scene sort of fell off. And sort of drum and bass I'd never really got that much into after sort of the jungle sort of stopped. I mean, I was up to about 98, I was into drum and bass, but after that, this decade, it's not really been working for me.
And so the vibe at the clubs, at these dubstep nights?
It's a really good vibe. There's positivity. I don't know. The bass is good.
Yeah.
I like the music mainly.
What are the main nights for you?
There's Forward and DMZ, really. The two. I haven't been to Forward because I could sort of never get down to London for that. But DMZ was on a Saturday, and I was sort of working through the week. So.
And a good sound rig is definitely a must with these nights.
Yeah, you need to be able to hear the bass and get the warmth. So they've been using sort of reggae systems, really, reggae sound systems, and putting them in. But there's a good one at DMZ, which is the only club I've been to, really, for this sort of music.
I mean, if you kind of look at that whole kind of evolution of what was once known as UK garage, and then all kind of kind of genreified and sub-genreified for a lot of people that if you weren't keeping up with it so well, you could kind of lose track of what's going on. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do know, but for people that don't, when some people still think of a lot of this music as grime and dubstep, at what point did they kind of split off, and what are the different?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. In about sort of 2002, it was hard for me to. There were a lot of. It was all still garage from a UK garage, and then I started seeing a lot of MCs. I mean, it started off in Pirates really, where MCs were spitting over the tracks, and it was only about then, 2001, 2002, that I think the records started being released with actually MCs on it. I think the first one I saw was Sharky Major, and stuff like Wiley, Pay As You, I think was in Pay As You Go at that time, and I think Roll Deep came sort of started after that, and sort of they're the main ones. But dubstep started about the same time, I think, with sort of the Temper label, Vehicle, all that lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just bought some records and I was into them,
I mean, what was Planet Mood? What was happening with Planet Mood prior?
At that time, we were just releasing electronic stuff, but I was buying a lot of this because it was interesting me, and we were sort of releasing. That time we just re-released Remark, who was a junglist. We'd re-released his records from like 94 and 95, 96, and that was bringing a sort of new drum and bass audience into sort of the electronics which we've been releasing. So yeah, at the moment we still release a lot of electronic stuff, and then now a bit of dubstep and whatever I'm interested in. If I get sent demos, I just listen to as many as I can, and whatever I'm into, I sort of ring them up and talk to them, see if we can work something out to release it or whatever.
How many demos are you getting on average a week?
I don't know, maybe about 50 a week or something. And it's quite a lot.
Make a point of making sure you listen to all of it?
No.
No.
I would love to, but I did have to throw away a whole load which I hadn't listened to because they were from like 3 years ago, and I'd still never listened to them, so I felt a bit bad, but then it did clear a big space in the kitchen. Yeah. So I could cook again. Just
kind of going right back for you. I mean, when did your first forays into kind of, the musical world kind of kick off, really?
Probably listening to Kiss FM in London was. I mean, I've been in a band, like rock, playing keyboards, synths in a band, and I wasn't that excited by doing that. And when I heard electronic music, stuff like house and acid, on the radio, then that sort of got my interest back.
Blue Innocence, I believe, was the name of the band.
Yeah.
Is there any good stories with your band days? Or?
No.
It's
that's the end of that.
That's it. No.
It's a dividing line, yeah. I mean, I was still playing with them when I was releasing stuff on Rephlex, which was 93, but we had it. It was. It's not interesting musically.
Yeah.
The singer wasn't very good.
Yeah.
It's just there was no future with that.
Yeah. I mean, when
we did almost get signed, actually, but
you nearly got signed
by what's his name, Dave Stone or John Stone, the guy who runs Sour, which was a jungle label at the time, but he had a rock label as well, and we did A&R for Parlophone and stuff and all sorts of links, but our singer was just shit. So I realised that, but he didn't, so I had to leave. It was pretty sticky.
And when you're talking about Kiss FM, for you, what were the radio shows that were
it was Colin Faver, really. I got into in sort of 1990 and 91. He was playing hardcore and acid and stuff, and then Colin Dale a bit later on, who was playing Detroit-y stuff, really.
And for you, at what point were you, kind of going about making, your first forays into making music yourself, inspired?
I mean, I've been making music myself since about 85 or 86 when I got my first synth. So I'd borrowing a 4-track and doing little things myself all that time. I think I bought a 4-track in 88 and 87 maybe, and was sort of doing little experiments then, sort of demos for the band I was in, and little electronic stuff, little bits of guitar stuff, and I had a drum machine then as well, so I was a lot of sort of putting a drum machine through a delay pedal and pissing about with it basically.
Yeah. I mean, when the music project started, it was originally you and a partner from the band?
Yeah, when I started doing electronic music with computers was probably 91, and there was a guy, Frank, who was a bass player in the band. He had a computer, so basically I didn't have much equipment. I had my synth and my drum machine, and I borrowed his synth, and we got together, mainly because he had the equipment and he let me use it. So we wrote a few songs together, but in the end, he had to go off to university in Wales, and I stayed in London and was sort of, he wasn't that into doing it. He just wanted to do his own thing, so we sort of split amicably, and
and then
still friends.
Obviously, you know, as you mentioned before, I mean, one of the, you know, the big kind of, one of the big thing that happened that kind of got your name out there to a whole huge audience was the hookup with Rephlex.
Huge.
Wow.
So it's not huge.
yeah. I mean, how'd the link up with Rephlex come about?
I sent him a demo, and he rang me up and said, "Can we release it?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And it happened.
That was it?
Yeah, after a few years it happened. That was probably the beginning of '92, and it did take about a year and a quarter or a year and a half to get the record out. So by the time it came out for me, it seemed like ages and years, because at that time music was moving pretty fast in the rave scene. It's like, and techno and whatever. But sort of running a label now, I understand a lot more about cash flow, which I think was the problem at the time. And sort of putting it out, I mean, it takes me a good sort of 6 months, or sometimes a lot longer to get something out. But I try and be as quick as possible, because I know how frustrating it is for artists to sort of sit on stuff.
I mean, you know, and for you at that time, was it, you know, when you're talking about Rephlex, you're talking about Aphex Twin and all that. I mean, was it fairly inspirational for you as a
yeah, so it was, because at that time everyone was making really inspirational music. Sort of knowing Aphex Twin at that time, you know, making an album with him as well was, because I was a big fan of his stuff as well. So it was exciting, yeah.
I mean, you know, what for you? I mean, is that still? How many collaborations have you done over the years?
I've worked with a few people. When Aphex was the first, and I mean, I'd worked with Frank before that and been in a band and stuff, and so I was used to working with people. I'd worked with Luke Vibert since, which, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out, and in that case, it didn't really work out musically. And Jochem, who's Speedy J, a techno producer from Rotterdam, I'd worked with him. We did an album together, and I've worked with quite a few of my artists as well on the label, just pissed about or whatever. Gone around their house and done tracks together like Shitmat and Tim Exile and Vexed and people like this. I've just been around their studios and we've worked on beats, and, you know, nothing's been released, but
yeah, maybe possibly at some stage in the future some of this will see the light.
Maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah. In terms of Richard Aphex Twin though, he actually hasn't collaborated with that many people.
Yeah, he's collaborated with Luke Vibert and Square Pusher, but apart from that, and Global, he's collaborated with most of his friends actually, probably all of them.
Right.
But I think R1's the only one that was released as an album. I think he did a track with Square Pusher that came out, and
but, I mean,
maybe Luke. I don't know. No, that didn't come out.
But, I mean, you know, did you learn a lot from him working in the studio?
No.
At that time, not at all.
Yeah, maybe. I liked the way he danced when he made music.
Yes. There you go.
And that was pretty much most of what I remember was, yeah, his attitude was good. We didn't really speak in the studio. It was pretty silent. It was just, we knew what we were doing. He would work on the mixer and I would work on the computer, and that's how we did it. He would do like one part, he would do a bass line, then I would do the next bit. It was like Atari at that time. This was before the days of Macs. It was 94, so it was all MIDI, and, you know, I would just do a bass line, then he would do the drums or this bit, and, you know, it was all just, we didn't have to speak. It was just pretty obvious that we did it sort of 50-50.
I mean, you know, and what followed kind of the Rephlex thing is, you know, you got signed to a major label. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, what happened was I did these remixes for Virgin Records for a indie band called the Auteurs, which were jangly guitar band or whatever. And I knew their manager, so he asked me to remix a track of theirs. And So I started remixing it, and each time I wasn't happy with it, so I did another one and another one. And in the end, I just had these 6 tracks, which I'd done. I wasn't really happy with them, so I sent them off to the manager, and Tony played them to David Boyd, who was the A&R man for Virgin, and he was really into them. And so they came out. I got a bit of money. That was the first bit of money I actually got paid for ever doing anything for music. So I moved out of my mum's house and
Nice.
rented a place.
Yeah.
So that was good. But yeah, it got released as an album in the end on Virgin. And then they wanted to sign me on the strength of the sales of that remix pack. So yeah, they just released the 6 remixes. And yeah, that was good.
And so what kind of deal did they lock you into? Was it like...
Yeah, the bastards tried to lock me into a 6-album deal for no money. But I got an advance. It's good. I mean, that's the thing about major labels is that you don't get so much per unit, as they call them, but you do get an advance. So it's worth it. If you want a big pile of money, I don't know if they still sign people majors, do they? No, it's all pop now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in those days, they did sign sort of underground dance things or interesting electronic things because it sold a fair bit. But I think nowadays it's changing a lot. There's stuff that basically sells less now. Who didn't turn their phone off?
Who didn't turn their phone off?
So I don't know if it happened now, but at the time, yeah, I got a nice advance, but then after that, you know, we would never recoup.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but so I did like 3 or 4 albums for them, and it worked pretty well. I mean, I never had any problems with artistic control. They were always, you know, nice guys. I was with the same A&R man through the however long it was, about 7 years I was with them. Yeah, it was all pretty good relationship and everything, and that worked out pretty well.
I mean, did you have, you know, a lot of creative freedom during this whole time, or did you?
Basically, they let me release what I wanted, so I was happy with that. And in the end, they had to buy Mariah Carey out, and I got dropped.
So it was Mariah's fault.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Everyone got dropped.
Yeah.
Except the Chemical Brothers.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, obviously during this time as well, you know...
And the Verve.
They stayed.
Or Richard Ashcroft, whatever, he stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a lot, many different aliases going on, and it seemed like there was a lot of different projects happening. Tell us a bit about, you know, what projects were going on at the time.
Can I remember? Fuck. There was, well, the m-Ziq, or m-Ziq, was the name I was signed to Virgin under, so I'd sort of carried that name on from Rephlex onto Virgin, and I was writing those albums. Then with Warp and Clear was Jake Slazenger, which was a sort of more electro-funk sound. And yeah, I did a few sort of 12 inches for other labels under different names and stuff, and that was it really. It was just, if you worked for another label, they wanted a different name because they didn't want to waste the money promoting different names, I think. Each label, there was a separate name.
I mean,
that's the reason behind it.
During that whole time, I mean, what was your kind of approach to production, I guess? Would you walk into the studio going, right, I'm feeling a bit Jake at the moment, or I'm feeling a bit Gary, or you kind of go in there?
Yes, something like that. No, it was just like, if you did a track, and maybe later you'd realise what you could put it out under. But yeah, I was making loads of tracks on the Atari every day, and it's pretty productive at that time during the 90s. Less so now because I'm running the label, but yeah, it was a good time for that. Because I think with the Atari, with MIDI, it was a lot quicker to write tracks. Because if you turned it off, you lost everything. You know, there were no hard disks in there. Well, there was a hard disk, but you couldn't save onto it. It was all floppy disk. You couldn't fit a song on the computer, could you? Yeah. You could, not on the 1040. Yeah, you couldn't fit audio on there. And if you, I don't know, it was all on floppies for me. Yeah, you couldn't fit the sounds. It was all MIDI, so you had to. Yeah, you fit the sequences on there, but when you reloaded it, then it would sound totally different for some reason. So I like to put it all onto DAT before the end of the day.
So it was very much a situation back then as if you went to the studio, you'd tend to finish things off.
Yeah, you'd have to finish that day, otherwise you'd lose everything pretty much, because the floppy disks were pretty unreliable in those days. You couldn't guarantee you could load the song up again, basically.
And how long were you trying to, how long would it take you to finish off a tune back then?
At least 20 minutes. at most 3 hours or something.
Yeah, right. So no more than that.
Yeah, sometimes it was a few days if you're working on, later on, cutting up breaks and stuff like that, you'd have to spend days on doing stuff, yeah. It was a few days to finish tracks, but...
So, aside from Atari, what else was your setup looking like?
Back then it was drum machine, it was all the outboards, it was all MIDI, it had sampler, eventually had sampler, and a couple of synths, drum machines, yeah.
And at what point, how long did you keep your setup as that, and at what point did you start?
When I got it, I got a Mac in about 1999 and moved over then. Before then, it was all Atari. But yeah, it was a bit of a head fuck when I moved to audio sequencing because it was totally different. I had to sort of relearn everything, so it took quite a while to get my head around it, really. Because I'm just used to one way of working, I'm not very into technology, actually, which isn't the best thing when you're an electronic musician. I just like what I know. Once I've learnt it, I sort of tend to keep to the same thing, and it doesn't really matter what I use to me. I just learn whatever's about and try to make music with it.
Do you think to a certain degree that's the best way to approach production, especially with electronic music? It doesn't matter how many bits of gear or plugins or whatever you have, it's just how well you know what you've got.
It depends what sort of person you are. For me, it confuses me to have more than 3 things in front of me, whatever I'm doing. So yeah. I like to keep things simple. I like one screen. At the moment, I'm being confused by the 4 channels on the mixer.
Yeah.
For instance, we've got the CD and the turntables and 2 computers.
Another one down there.
That's why it's out of view. You've taken it.
Yeah. Just to calm things down a bit. Should we listen to another track from the label?
We could do. Yeah. That was a dubstep thing, so that's one of the latest. I don't know.
Have you got any of your music from that whole period?
No.
Not on the.
I have on that laptop. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to play, or you?
There's a Venetian snares. Where's that?
Yeah.
That could be a bit more of a. This is more of a sort of breakcore sound, which is big in Europe and a little bit in America. I don't know. Is breakcore big in America? Is anyone?
I mean, again, it's one of the biggest problems with electronic music was everything got kind of genreified and subgenreified.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, how would you describe breakcore?
I'll just play it.
Yeah.
I think because.
And whereabouts are Venetian snares from?
He's from Canada.
So Venetian snares?
That was Venetian snares. Yeah, he works in different time signatures. If you actually listen to that, you might have realised it was sort of 5 beats to a bar or 10 or something. So that's his gimmick.
Yeah.
It's sort of jungle in weird time signatures.
I mean, that was one of the the most exciting things about kind of what was happening with jungle and everything was producers actually spend a lot of time cutting up breaks and kind of gave it a certain kind of energy. Is that to a certain degree? I don't know, with what was happening with kind of the UK hardcore scene and that energy of jungle, something that you're trying to keep that spirit alive with that move?
Yeah, it's part of what I got into in music, in hardcore was, the sort of nuttiness of it, the anything goes, all the samples and the breaks as well. So it sort of mixed up a lot of things in UK music, like the sound system and sort of reggae sound system type lineage, and then hip-hop as well, and techno, I suppose. It was a sort of speeding up of all this with taking drugs, I suppose. So it all got, I was really into that sort of mix and match sound, and then when jungle came along, a couple of years later, it was like really sort of new sound. You couldn't have predicted it really. Well, what they were doing with breaks was pretty original, so I was well into that.
Yeah. I mean, your music's always kind of been, I know, on the periphery of all these different scenes, but taking influence from them, but I don't know, I guess kind of twisting it into some mutant hybrid. I mean, did you ever
steal?
Yeah. Did you ever see yourself, I don't know, releasing more or making more kind of conventional music that you'd see played at these kind of parties?
Yeah, sometimes. I wasn't very good at doing it though, so I just preferred to make the stuff I was happy doing, and which always sounded a little bit more idiosyncratic or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just carried on doing what I was doing really, and it never really got played in the jungle parties.
Yeah. I mean, how much, at what point did Planet Move start kind of taking a life of its own?
Well, when I started up independently was 98, so a life of its own. What do you mean?
In terms of, I mean, if you look at
I have to be there to run it.
If you look at the output of the last kind of few years, it's been huge. At what
Right. At what point did I start releasing more records?
Yeah, I mean, at what point did you focus a lot of your attention, say, more on the label?
Yeah, probably in about 2001 or something. I think I started spending more time doing that. I suppose I got in doing, I don't know, how did it happen? I didn't think about it really. I suppose I must have spent more time doing that and less on doing music, and it's sort of all.
And that's still happening now. You're kind of less in the studio and more.
Yeah, I've been making a bit of music this year, not too much, but I sort of make a bit occasionally. I do tend to work 9 to 5 on doing the label, so that's the main thing for me at the moment.
I mean, tell us what would a typical day at the label look like? What's involved?
Yeah, I sort of go onto the internet and sort of talk to the artists really on AIM and iChat, and have to do accounts, like pay them money and work out how much you sold. Talking to distributors is a big part of it. Occasionally listening to demos and sorting out what you're going to release, sorting out artwork. It's a pretty diverse thing. You have to do every part of it, ringing up manufacturers, getting a best price.
I mean, sorting
all that out.
You're running everything by yourself at the moment?
Pretty much, yeah. Press is done by someone else, and obviously distribution is as well. But yeah, I do pretty much everything myself.
Right. And who's distributing your records at the moment?
SRD, which is Southern Record Distributors out of London, and Revolver in the States.
Right. And I mean, you've been with SRD for how long now?
Since the beginning, 8 years. So, yeah, they've been really good. And also, MP3 distribution is like the new thing, really. So, you've got iTunes doing that and Bleep. So, because everyone just downloads it for free anyway. So, a few of them are starting to buy it now.
Right.
Getting a conscience or whatever.
Tell us a bit about Bleep.
Bleep is run by Warp Records, which is a UK label which I was signed to for one album in the 90s, and they started up the MP3 download company, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and we were like one of the first labels on there, and it's been growing slowly. And it's starting to do quite well now. Right.
I mean, so you're starting to see like a healthy percentage of the overall sales.
Yeah.
Is through the MP3
That's right.
thing. I mean, one thing that I remember reading something about 2 or 3 years ago, which I always found quite interesting, was in an interview said about the one of the music albums that if it ended up on Souls. Do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, that was a joke. I put it on the
Yeah.
promos. I put, if you sell it, if you put it on the internet, I won't make another album. But I haven't made another album. But it wasn't for that reason.
So this is before the album came out. You said if it ends up on
Yeah.
SoulSeek, there'll be no more music.
Yeah.
And
There wasn't.
yeah,
But it's a good excuse.
yeah,
It
definitely.
was done as a joke, but everyone took it really seriously, especially the Germans.
Yeah,
So I went along with them.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when it started, the MP3 downloads back in about, I think it was 2003, 2004, when Bleep was set up, that was the first company we went with. Now we sort of sell them through an agent to all the download companies, but yeah, it was a bit disheartening because there were really hardly any sales at all. So it's good that it is starting to grow a bit, and vinyl sales are starting to grow as well.
Oh, really?
12 inches as well.
Yeah.
So it's all looking quite positive.
Right. I mean,
For us anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of labels are going bust though, so it's not great for everyone. But
musically, are there any particular strands that are strong points for the label? Like,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, the dubstep stuff is starting to sell quite well. It is quite encouraging. But a lot of stuff is disheartening.
Yeah.
Loads of stuff just doesn't sell at all.
And in terms of the dubstep stuff, I mean, obviously it's a very, originated as a very London and now very UK form of music.
Croydon.
Yeah, very, very Croydon.
Just Croydon.
How's that stuff going outside of?
A little bit of Norwood.
A little bit Norwood.
Yeah.
South
London.
Any of Worcester?
No.
No.
So,
But how about in terms of places like America? Are there scenes starting to emerge?
yeah, there are some people like Secret Agent Gel, like who's doing dubstep in I think he's in New Jersey or something. So yeah, it's spreading around the world. So there's pockets of it. I think there's New Zealand guy trying to do dubstep.
Yeah.
He was annoying everyone on the forums. What's his name again? Do you know who that is?
I do know his name, but I'd feel bad if I said it right
No,
now.
no, his music's not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's just the attitude.
Yeah,
No, forums are great to sort of find out who's, instead of sort of being sent loads of CDs and stuff by posts, it's good to sort of look on forums and seeing who's sort of big.
Yep.
In doing demos and stuff, because they always sort of try and big themselves up, really.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see who bigs themselves up. Is usually they spend more time doing that and less doing the music, so it's usually pretty shit. And then the people who are quiet are doing the best stuff.
Yeah.
That's not always true, but I tend to find it generally is true.
Yeah.
In some sorts of music.
I mean, you've got a forum yourself on your website.
Mm.
Is it a blessing and a curse?
You what?
Is it a blessing and a curse? I mean, with any kind of forum, there's
Yeah, I mean, it's there are good people and bad. It's sometimes you get annoying things up. But
yeah.
we got hacked last week, so.
What do the hackers do?
They put up a photo of a Lebanese girl with her feet blown off. No, video actually.
Oh.
It was anti-war. But I'm in favour of that, so it didn't come down for a day.
Right. I mean, do you want to listen to another track now?
Yeah, whatever.
Well,
What do
tell
you
us
think?
about the compilation of the Sacred Symbols of Moon.
Oh yeah, we put out this compilation this summer. It's got 24 of our artists on there. It was released at mid-price to try and sell it. It's just to sort of promote the label, and we did a party in London with 21 artists in 3 rooms, and that went pretty well. Trying to introduce some of the new artists we'd signed to people and just make a good party. Really, that was sold out and went down pretty well.
I mean, for you, you've got about, 80, how many artists do you have in your roster now?
80 or so, yeah, I think.
Wow. I mean,
Past and future, not all of them. We don't work with all of them anymore. At least we put out records of them or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for you, I don't know, who are some of the artists on your label at the moment that are, I don't know, exciting you a lot at the moment? Obviously, everyone's.
Yeah, we just played
Loafer there, and then we got Sound Murderer, who's one of the other people helping out here. We've released a record of his, which is on here. And actually, we've probably got the 12-inch of that. Have we? I don't know. Yes, here it is. Should we play that? Because this is Todd, who's been. Did he give a talk the other day, last week?
He
Or is
said
he?
a few words. Todd Osborne. Of course. So this record's under what alias? And
Sound Murderer and SK1, which is him and the other Tad Mullinex. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a lot of the music on Planet Moo is to a certain degree fairly diverse. Do you find that Planet Moo fans are pretty accepting of a large kind of percentage of the output on the label?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And
I mean, it's good because you get a different audience into it. I mean, the drum and bass fans might be into this or whatever. When we release Remark, it introduced a lot of people into the label, and same with the dubstep stuff. It sort of brings a lot of things together. I don't know, it might alienate people. Some people, no one likes all of it except for me, probably.
Yeah. And you've been re-releasing a lot of old school jungle and all that kind of stuff with the Remark stuff and.
Yeah, that was just the Remark stuff. That was it.
You're working on another.
We are going to be releasing Busy Bee's old hardcore stuff. I don't know when, but maybe in the next couple of years. And we've been putting out his new stuff as well.
Yeah.
He's an old junglist. Also, he produced hardcore between sort of 91 and he's still releasing jungle now and drum and bass. So.
I mean, with the fact that you're kind of releasing a lot of the soul jungle and especially the dubstep stuff, is it have you been kind of working with any of that kind of production yourself?
Yeah, I've done a few tracks like that.
Will we be
Trying to.
Right. Will we be seeing anything the light of day at?
I don't know, probably not.
I mean, is it kind of, I don't know, is it a conscious decision to maybe move away so much from the production side of things? Has the label got busier, or you actually...
No, it's not a conscious decision. It's just I get less inspired. As I get older, I just feel tireder and less like making music. I don't know. It depends, when I was a young teenager, I was more inspired by, frustration and angst and all that shit, which I don't have now.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't make any music anymore. Well, I do, but maybe it's shit. I really don't know. It's hard to tell with your own stuff. I just play it to friends, and, you know, people tend to like my early stuff and say my later stuff's shit, so it's the same with everyone, isn't it? Yeah. I loved your first album, but what happened?
Yeah. I mean, how much time are you kind of spending in the studio at the moment?
Well, it's all the same. It's just I've got one computer and that's it. So it's the studio, is the office, is the bedroom, is, you know.
I mean,
I haven't got a studio, basically.
Yeah, right. And I mean, for you, you know, what are the kind of the hardest things about running a label, you know, in this kind of modern age?
The overbearing loneliness.
Yes. Does it get lonely out there?
I just sit on my own in front of the computer all day, and the human contact I get is on iChat, which is AIM or MSN, you know, so that's it. I occasionally meet people at the weekend. Yeah. When I go and do gigs, that's it.
Are you playing?
Go out and DJ.
Are you playing out much at the moment?
Yeah, I'm playing out when I get back. So I'm playing Technicality, which is a drum and bass night out there. They're starting a dubstep label, so I think I'm playing the launch for that, although I'm not quite sure which room I'm playing in, but that's at Mass in Brixton, so I'm looking forward to that. Then we got the launch party for the Mary Ann Hobbs album, which is a compilation coming out on our label of Mary Ann Hobbs, is a Radio 1 DJ, and that's got sort of a lot of good tracks on it. And
I mean, tell us a bit about Mary Ann Hobbs for people that don't know, because she's been pretty supportive of this.
She's supportive of well, she sort of kicked off dubstep being big in the UK, I think, with the Dubstep Wars show. She had it on Radio 1 this year, and she contacted me over AIM, actually, and we sort of got to know each other and met up a few times and at parties and that, and so I was really honoured, I never say that word, when she asked me to release her compilation, or sort of came up with the idea of a compilation, because most Radio 1 DJs, I don't know, like Giles Peterson and stuff, release compilations of you know, she'd never done it, so she wanted to represent the UK underground, so it's got like JME and Terror Danger on it, and Code 9, Burial, plus a few drum and bass things like Amit, and I can't remember, I'm sure I've got a copy of it here somewhere. I did have, someone's stolen it. Was it you?
Probably wasn't. I did see it before,
it's not on there, is it? It's underneath there.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, so it's not all dubstep stuff?
No, it's got, well, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's all dubstep. It's got Andy Stott, which is like techno, fourth floor, sort of techno from Manchester, Digital Mystics, which is dubstep, Terror Danger, The Bug, which is dancehall, or sort of digital dancehall, I don't know. Spore, which is drum and bass, for Renegade Hardware, that sort of harder, twisted sound, bass lines and that.
And Amit, who's doing quite a...
Amit, yeah, which is sort of...
very dubstep influenced drum and bass.
Yeah, some of his stuff is. This track, which Mary chose, is pretty sort of straight ahead, but there's a really good track he's done called Immigrants, which sounds pretty... you know the one, that's the one I always DJ out. I wanted to get Immigrants on here, but Mary Ann wasn't having any of it. Really? That's the one I wanted. Yeah.
Shall we listen to something off that then?
Yeah, we can do, so... Is that... How do you eject a track? I don't know. Okay.
And so the Warrior Dubs is out. When will this be out?
A couple of weeks, I think. 23rd of October, 3 weeks or something. Actually, we can play this one. This is Millen.
The name of that track is? Again, the name of that track is?
Dead Man Walking, I think it's the Milanese remix of Virus.
I mean, you've had a bit of experience, getting music on the radio before. I mean, is it really hard to get music on the radio in England?
It's just luck, I think. If the right people like it, then it's going to get on there. I think there's nothing you can do. I mean, if you get a plug, it can help, but sometimes it's a waste of money. But I think the main thing is if it's pretty obvious if the track's going to be the right track, because everyone's going to be into it, and it'll sort of run away with itself. And
I mean, what is this whole notion of radio plugging, and what do these people do, and is it...
They take money off labels.
They just steal money off labels.
And they say they're going to give you everything, they give you nothing.
Yes.
Same with press.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if a track's usually got a life of its own, I think it's going to be pretty obvious if it's going to be big or not. Sometimes you think something's going to be big and it just completely flops. I don't know. A lot of it can be luck as well. you can't really pay for a track to be big. Actually, you can if you're a major label.
Yes, yes.
But an independent label can't, and we haven't got enough money, so it's just, we put the tracks out there, if people like them, that's great.
I mean, for you, I mean, because obviously, the last thing you want is to be left with a whole lot of copies of records. I mean, how do you know what is the right amount to kind of press up?
Experience.
Experience.
Yeah, you just look at your sales notes, see how much the last one sold, or something similar might have done, or ask the distributors, really. And I'll say, well, we think we can sell this much, and I usually sort of underestimate and then repress if need be, so we don't waste money.
Yeah. I mean, should we have a look at this? We'll play this a bit, but should we have a look at the website? Is that quite a large part of the Planet Moo operations? Like, a lot of people are checking the...
Yeah.
Have we got the camera?
The website's, since the beginning, has been a pretty big part of it, I think. We did have a camera. We'll do that in a minute. He's going to move it over. Maybe you should listen to another track while... What's this, Digital Mistakes? This one's pretty famous.
So Warrior Dubs, go out and get in the shops. Great album. Warrior Dubs.
Yeah, it's out soon. Please buy it. No.
Yeah, so how important is it for you, as a label owner, to have a comprehensive website?
Well, we had an old website and I could never update it. The main problem was if I wanted to put up some information, I'd have to contact the guy in Canada who set it up for me and sort of email him all the information. He'd put it up when he got a moment. Actually, that's his girlfriend. That's a holding page.
Right.
So this one, the new website which we've just put up, this isn't actually online yet, is totally... I can alter everything, basically. I just log in, I can add a new artist, add a new release, put all the news in, and you've got whatever I like.
You've got complete, for every single artist on the label, you've got complete bios.
Yeah, everything's up now, pretty much, for everything except the contact details and the forum, the message board's not up yet. So it will be coming online soon, but...
And in terms of so pretty much the whole of the catalogue is up there in audio?
Yeah. In clips, not the full tracks, but there's clips of pretty much everything, yeah. So that's the Virus Syndicate artist page there. And what's that? So yeah, if you just go to that release, their single, you can just click on the title and play their MP3. I mean, it's good. It's probably easier than the old website had samples as well, but it was hard to find them. This one's a bit easier, so people can know if they want to hear something from the label. Like, just go to the website, click on the release, click on the title, and you can hear it.
And is it much of a cost to have something like this set up and kind of keep maintaining?
No, it's free, because my friend does it for free for me.
Nice.
Yeah, Attila. I thank him very much all the time. I just send him all the records, and he's happy.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
No, there's the server costs, because we've just updated to a new server, which is, it's less than 70 quid a year.
Yeah.
So that's really cheap. I mean, it's good that he's a friend who does it, so. I
mean, and the other thing with the label is obviously, if anyone's seen any of your covers, you like to kind of get some nice artwork in there. Do you
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, is it much of an outlay to get...
To manufacture a record, yeah. I mean, something like this, that's a nice artwork. It's a cow being either dismembered or built or something. That cost us 500 quid, the cover.
Right.
The artwork, it's all digital, done in Photoshop by a guy in Miami, Arnold Steiner. And that was one of the more expensive ones. Usually you spend about 300-400 quid on artwork at the most.
Yep.
I mean, if we're doing something like a 12-inch like this, the template's already done. So, we do a load of them like this and then just change the colour. So that's 20 quid or something, He just has to choose a colour, type the barcode in, and it's done, so.
And in terms of the label, is it a pretty busy time in the next while? Obviously you've got the Warrior Dubs thing, but what else is
I shouldn't really be here, yeah.
Yeah. Got iChat conversations to have. And
I know, if I ever turn it on, I'll be talking to loads of people, so. Yeah. Asking for money.
Yeah. Always good to pay your artists.
Thanking me for money.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I am pretty busy. Yeah, I've got the parties are sorted out by a promoter, so that's I pretty much had to sort out everything before I came, so I had a pretty busy week just before I came out here, just sorting out all the manufacturing of the releases that are coming out in the next, up till November. And just making sure everyone had all the parts for everything, all the artwork was there, uploaded to the servers and wherever the printer is and all that sort of thing. It's all, yeah, you've got to keep your head screwed on, but only 3 things at a time.
Yes, definitely. I mean, you're going to be around for the next couple of days, so if people want to, in terms of, ask you anything about label stuff, and if anyone has any questions now, by all means, put your hand up. Do we need a mic?
I don't know. Actually, Tom Middleton came up with that, which is your mate. Tom, when I went down to Exeter to meet Mark was you were the first person to want to sign me actually before I went to Rephlex. So I went down. I was sort of wondering about what name to choose, and that was one of the things that I'd come up with was m-Ziq, and Tom liked it and said, yeah, you got to do that. So I can't remember, but Mew. I think it means something in Japanese as well, so I'm not sure. It's just you can mean whatever you want, really.
Do you see dubstep as some sort of mystical music?
Mystical?
Yeah. Do you think that...
I get into it when I go to the clubs, but not really mystical. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe if you smoke enough, or I don't know. I don't really take drugs, so... Mystical. I mean, for me, mystical is like a little part of your brain which is giving you those signals. So, yeah, I can get pretty into dubstep. Yeah.
I mean, what I was going to say before as well is you're going to be around the next couple of days, so if people want to get you on for some production stuff.
Yeah, production stuff as well.
But do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on this little thing?
Well, you were talking about cut-up beats earlier, and I had a cut-up beat on here, which I prepared earlier.
Here's something I prepared earlier.
I wonder if this is turned on. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, when I make my own tracks as well, so I'm still play live and DJ and stuff. And I just had opened this track, which gave an idea of what you can do with, I mean, this is jungle, so if you put the amen break on, here you've got the waveform, and then you cut it up. This is battery, which is like just a little drum machine which you load in your sounds to. I've just loaded in the amen break. Hasn't even got the cymbal at the end. I wonder where that is. And I just move the start point along. And then stretch it. Or whatever. You've got all these different sound effects, reverses and stuff. Pitch it. You can do all this within the program by, I mean, if we go to the break here, you can just tune it up or down. And then affect it and stuff. Make it really grainy or something. If you want it to sound like that, it can. So I don't know if you would. Sounds a bit like that Milanese thing. So, and then you put it all together and you can just program something in to... I wonder if that'll play. There you can see it. There it's gone.
What do you use when you're playing live?
Yeah, this is what I use when I'm playing live, which is Logic with battery and various plugins and stuff.
How much is pre-prepared, and is there anything like improvised?
Anything I can improvise. Yeah, basically you can loop stuff, you can mute stuff, and you can piss around with plugins by, I mean, like for instance, I'll just loop a bit of this break here. I can go in on that. Sort of fuck around with that on the funny little GRM plugin thing. So, I mean, you can do that, you can... I mean, it's mainly structured, but I've got loop-based tracks as well, where you can sort of have loops and mute them on and off. I mean, I'm sort of used to working with the Atari, which used to be a lot more live, sort of, where you used to trigger the MIDI stuff, so you could sort of almost write tracks on the fly while you're playing live, because you've got the keyboard there to input stuff. But with this, I'm not playing with the keyboard, so the only way I could sort of input notes is like with a little pencil or whatever. It's not something you can really do live. You could, but you'd have to stop and then do it. It's not very good for dancing.
Just with the beats, chopped up beats, do you play them in live or?
I used to, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, I do. In this case, I did, yeah. You can map them onto the keyboard there in battery. If I open that up again, I don't know, it's not still on the screen, is it? But you can map each of those breaks and the different start points to a different note on the keyboard, and then you can just play them in like that, which I think sounds a lot better than if you're putting in by pencil.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I do just put it in, put in the notes in the sequencer and just sort of move them around a bit and sort of get it sounding a bit more. So that's on C#1, for example. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I prefer playing it on the keyboard, so you get a sort of more musicianly feel to it, You sort of get into it.
Yeah, cool.
But then this year I've only been writing on the computer with no keyboard, just to restrict myself.
So that it's all just pencil then? You're just drawing things on using the mouse?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing this year.
Yeah,
just, I don't know why. I've been limiting myself.
Yeah, cool.
Are there any other questions for Mike? No, I was going to say, well, if we've got some stuff happening upstairs for the rest of the evening, so if anyone wants to come up and ask you anything one-on-one and get you to show anything,
yeah, sure.
then by all means they can. But thank you very much, Mike, for taking time out to chat.
Thanks.